Let's talk about the United Kingdom, a nation famous for its love of tea, its legendary patience in queues, and more recently, for being at the center of a swirling economic storm. This is a country where the weather is a national obsession, but lately, it's the economic climate that's got everyone talking. From the cobbled streets of Edinburgh to the bustling markets of London, there's a sense that something fundamental has shifted. Turn on the news, and you'll be greeted by a barrage of headlines, warning of a perfect storm, and a cost of living catastrophe. It's not just the tabloids. Every channel, every paper, every conversation in the local pub seems to circle back to the same grim reality. Things are getting tougher by the day. It sounds like the plot of a disaster movie, but for most people, it's just another Tuesday in Britain. The rain keeps falling, the buses keep running late, and life goes on, just with a little more anxiety than before. For millions of ordinary families, the apocalypse isn't some distant threat. It's already arrived, disguised as overdue bills, skyrocketing grocery prices, and the constant worry of how to make ends meet. The struggle is real, and it's happening behind closed doors in homes up and down the country. Politicians love to blame global headwinds for the chaos, pointing fingers at international crises and economic shocks. But, let's be honest. Much of this storm was brewed right here at home, with a generous helping of political missteps and short-term thinking. Years of political chaos, chronic underinvestment, and yes, that thing that rhymes with Schmexit, have left the UK economy looking less like a global powerhouse, and more like a soggy biscuit left out in the rain. Once thriving towns now struggle with shuttered shops and crumbling infrastructure, while the promise of a brighter future feels increasingly out of reach. The UK faces a brutal cocktail of challenges. Pandemic aftershocks that still linger, energy price spikes that hit every household, and a thick layer of homegrown problems that just won't go away. For many, it's not just about numbers on a spreadsheet, it's about broken boilers in the dead of winter, leaky roofs that never get fixed, and small businesses fighting to survive another month. The pain is personal, and it's everywhere. The global issues are like the stale bread in a sad sandwich. But the filling, the real taste of this crisis, is a rancid mix of instability, uncertainty, and self-inflicted wounds that make every bite harder to swallow. When politicians dodge responsibility, what they're really saying is, please don't check our homework. The blame game is in full swing, but solutions are in short supply. Other countries are struggling too, but the UK seems to be playing on expert mode, blindfolded, with half the pieces missing, and the rules changing every week. It's a uniquely British kind of chaos. The storm is real, and it's raging all around us. But let's not kid ourselves. The ship was leaking long before the waves hit. Now the question is, can Britain patch the holes before it's too late, or will it keep bailing water while the rain pours in? Let's make this real. The crisis is about the price of milk, bread, and the dread of another bill. For millions, it's not a chart. It's the panic at the checkout, the choice between heating and eating. Energy bills have soared, making warmth a luxury. Food prices keep climbing, parents skip meals so kids can eat. Pensioners ride buses all day to stay warm. The cost of living crisis is rewriting the social contract. Work hard, play by the rules, and still fall behind. Homeownership is a joke for many, and even renting is out of reach. Local pubs and small businesses are closing. High streets are emptying. Community centers are now warm banks. The fabric of society is stretched to breaking. This isn't just numbers, it's the slow dismantling of everyday life. This crisis didn't appear overnight. It's the result of years of slow, almost invisible damage, quietly accumulating beneath the surface while daily life carried on. It's been a slow puncture for over a decade, a gradual leak that's left the country running on empty, even as many hoped things would simply fix themselves. The 2008 financial crash broke the UK's economic model, exposing its over-reliance on finance. Suddenly, the prosperity built on banking and speculation was revealed to be fragile, and the shockwaves rippled through every sector. The response? Austerity, deep, painful cuts to public services, from libraries and schools to the NHS, all in the hope that the economy would bounce back stronger. But the promised recovery never truly arrived. Instead, growth stagnated and the foundations weakened. High streets emptied, investment dried up, and once thriving communities began to feel left behind. Then came Brexit, adding complexity and cost, at the very moment the economy could least afford it. Businesses faced new barriers, and uncertainty became the new normal. It was like trying to solve a puzzle while the room was on fire. Every solution seemed to spark new problems. and the pressure only grew. The pandemic and war in Ukraine hit a UK already weakened by years of low growth and political upheaval. Supply chains broke, costs soared, and the public felt the strain in every aspect of daily life. Each crisis compounded the last, layering new challenges on top of old wounds, until the sense of crisis became a constant backdrop to British life. This isn't a single event, it's the result of years of mismanagement, short-term thinking, and ignored warnings from experts and ordinary people alike. The tire's been leaking for years, now it's flat. The warning signs were there, but they were brushed aside, and now the consequences are impossible to ignore. The UK's decline is cumulative, not sudden. It's a story written over years, with each chapter making the next more difficult to fix. The real crisis is how long it's been ignored, how warnings were missed, opportunities wasted, and problems allowed to fester until they became impossible to hide. What does decline look like for most people? Stagnant wages. For 15 years, real wages have barely moved, an entire generation working harder, but standing still. Meanwhile, the richest have seen their wealth soar, widening inequality. The economic pie isn't growing, but the top takes bigger slices. The middle class, once the bedrock of stability, is now one bill away from crisis. Anxiety and precariousness define daily life. This isn't fate, it's the result of an economic model that rewards short-term gains and asset owners over workers. London's financial district thrives while the rest of the country is left behind. The money didn't vanish, it just moved upward, leaving most running on fumes. The engine room of the economy is running empty. The UK's shift from industry to services changed everything. Factories and mines once anchored communities with stable jobs and pride. Their decline left a vacuum, promises of a new service economy only partly fulfilled, mostly in London. For many, secure jobs were replaced by low-wage, precarious work or unemployment. Regional inequalities deepened. The north-south divide is now one of Europe's largest. In left-behind areas, zero-hours contracts and gig work replaced stability. The safety net, shredded by austerity, offers little protection. The path from shuttered factories to food banks is direct. The decline of industry was a social catastrophe, not just an economic shift. Why is UK productivity so poor? British workers put in long hours but produce less than their European peers. It's not laziness, it's chronic underinvestment in infrastructure, technology, and skills. German firms invest in new equipment. Many UK firms squeeze old assets for profit. The skills gap is huge. World-class universities, but little vocational training. Shortages of engineers and skilled tradespeople hold the economy back. Reliance on low-wage, low-skilled jobs traps the country in a doom loop. Low investment leads to low productivity, which means low-wage growth, which discourages further investment. The UK is stuck in a low-growth, low-wage rut. Solving the productivity puzzle is essential for real prosperity. Without it, the cycle continues. The country can't move forward without breaking this loop. It's time to address the Brexit-shaped elephant in the room, a topic that's impossible to ignore, no matter how much some might wish otherwise. Brexit has cast a long shadow over the UK's economy, politics, and daily life. No matter how you voted, the reality is clear. Brexit has made the UK's economic problems even harder to solve. It's like trying to run a marathon in a suit of armor. Every step is heavier, every mile more exhausting, and the finish line seems to keep moving further away. Leaving the EU created a maze of new trade barriers with our biggest trading partner. Suddenly, businesses faced mountains of paperwork, longer delays at borders, and extra costs that eat into already thin margins. Small businesses, the backbone of the UK economy, have been hit the hardest. Many have simply given up on trading with the EU altogether, unable to cope with the new red tape and uncertainty. Since Brexit, UK trade volumes have consistently lagged behind those of similar economies. The numbers don't lie. Our exports and imports have struggled to recover, and the gap keeps widening. Investment has stalled too. Uncertainty about future trade rules and market access makes businesses wary of putting money into new projects or expanding operations here. Why would a company build a new factory in the UK if it's now so much harder to sell goods to Europe? Many are choosing to invest elsewhere, leaving once busy industrial sites empty. Labor shortages are biting hard. Ending freedom of movement without a clear plan has left huge gaps in key sectors. Agriculture, hospitality, and healthcare are all feeling the strain. The results are visible everywhere. crops left to rot in fields, restaurants forced to cut their hours, and the NHS struggling to find enough staff to care for patients. Of course, Brexit didn't cause every problem the UK faces, but it's made almost all of them worse, adding new challenges to an already difficult situation. Think of Brexit as an accelerant, poured onto a fire that was already burning. It hasn't started the blaze, but it's made it much harder to control. The UK's self-inflicted wounds are now impossible to ignore. The consequences are playing out in headlines, in businesses, and in the lives of ordinary people across the country. The UK's economic woes are rooted in its history. Deindustrialization left deep regional scars. Once thriving areas were abandoned as the country bet everything on London's financial sector. The market didn't provide, it concentrated wealth in the southeast and left others behind. The Brexit vote was a cry from left-behind regions, frustrated by decades of neglect. Crumbling infrastructure, poor jobs, and lower life expectancy are the legacy of this imbalance. Leveling up remains a slogan, not a reality. The UK is one of the most regionally divided countries in the developed world. Without a real plan to heal these wounds, division and instability will persist. Is there hope? Yes, but only with honesty, bravery, and long-term thinking. The first step: tell the truth about the scale of the challenge. The UK needs a real industrial strategy, investing in future industries, infrastructure, and skills. Public and private sectors must work together to create high-skilled, well-paid jobs. Fixing vocational training is essential. The state must play a bigger role. Strong public services, fair taxes, and a robust safety net. This isn't about punishing success, but building a society where everyone has a stake. The UK stands at a crossroads: continue decline or choose honest leadership and strategic investment. It won't be easy, but the alternative is more slow collapse. The final chapter isn't written. The choice is Britain's to make.